Hi there. My name is David Merrill, and I'm a bankruptcy attorney in West Palm Beach with the firm of Osmond and Merrill. We're a bankruptcy firm that handles Chapter 7s, 11s, 13s, and 12s, and we're involved with most aspects of bankruptcy law in general. In addition, I also handle cases that are called adversary proceedings, which is a lawsuit in the bankruptcy court, and have had this practice, even though we're based in West Palm Beach and have an office in West Palm Beach. This practice is one that I enjoy throughout the state of Florida, and in fact, throughout the southeastern United States. While my partner Drake Osmond handles matters that involve consumer cases such as Chapter 7s and 13s, my practice is focused primarily on Chapter 11s, where you'll see sometimes it's individuals with complex business matters, but very often what we're dealing with, and more often, are businesses. And our firm has handled matters that, in the construction industry, real estate, manufacturing, healthcare, mostly privately held companies, but also publicly traded companies as well. Let's talk about the three chapters that are much more common. That's Chapters 7, 11, and 13. Now, Chapter 11, by contrast, is very different. One of the big differences between 13 and 11 is that in 13, not only are you limited by the debt, but you're limited by the term of years within which you are allowed to be able to repay your debts. Typically, a Chapter 13 case goes for 60 months. That's a 5-year plan. There are circumstances where it can be as little as 3, but pretty much set your expectations for a 5-year plan. Now, a lot of people say, great, I don't want to be in bankruptcy one moment longer than I should need to be. And quite frankly, that's exactly right. But there are circumstances where you may need more time in order to be able to reorganize the debts that you have so that you can then be able to go forward and be a productive member of society, or perhaps more importantly, if you're in a business, to be able to save all of your employees' jobs and to remain a viable entity. In Chapter 11, there is no technical limitation on the amount of time that that you might be in a Chapter 11 case, or that you might make payments in Chapter 11. There are a lot of interesting and technical deals with 11, but ultimately what you're talking about is, first of all, individuals can file Chapter 11. One of the more typical things that we still see today is a situation where an individual or his family owned a business, and it was doing amazingly well in the last business cycle. And they used the profits from the business to buy houses. Those houses then they put debt on and got mortgages to buy more houses, and now they've got 10, 15, 20 houses. And the problem, of course, is that, of course, the housing bubble happened, and now they can't pay for those houses because the rents that they were earning simply isn't enough to be able to pay the debt service. Well, what do you do if they're going to lose those houses? Then they're going to lose the business because the bank is going to want to get all of the extra money that would be owed to them paid somehow. Now, that extra money is usually known as a deficiency. And you think of that this way. If your house is worth $100,000 and you owe $150,000. Well, you're upside down by $50,000, and in that circumstance, that $50,000 is what's known as a deficiency. Well, what you can do, and I need to caution you with what I'm about to say, because there are different rules with what's called your primary residence. In Florida, sometimes people call that your homestead. There's sometimes a distinction between primary residence and homestead. That's rare, by the way. It's almost always the same thing. But the bottom line is that that amount of money, if it's your primary residence, cannot be treated in the bankruptcy in the way you can treat non-primary residence debt. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, you've got that $100,000 home, and you have a $150,000 mortgage. You've also got on top of that a $50,000 second mortgage on that property. Now, there's two concepts here. There's the strip off and the cram down, and I'm using some colloquial language here because in reality in Chapter 11 it's not really a strip off per se, but that's technically how it works. That's a term that's used a lot in Chapter 13 types of cases, but we're going to use that because the technical operation of what's going on is essentially the same, or I should say that the net result is essentially the same. What you would do is you would say, look, bankruptcy court, I've got a $100,000 house. Here's my appraisal. Here's my value, and it's $100,000. And you may have a trial, and the bank may argue with that, but at the end of the day, you'll come up with a value. And for this example, it's $100,000. because not $1 of value on that $50,000 second mortgage is actually attached to the house, you can strip that off of the mortgage or off of the house so that it is no longer a lien on the house at all. It's just been removed, and it is treated as a general unsecured debt, kind of like a credit card. There are different types of debts, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's ultimately what we're talking about is you're treating what used to be a mortgage like a credit card in terms of the liability. Now, if it's not your primary residence, the other thing that you can do is called the cram down. You can actually say, Judge, I would like to have that $150,000 loan now be a $100,000 loan. And the technical term is bifurcation. But essentially what happens is that $50,000 also gets treated as a general unsecured debt. So you're left with a $100,000 house on which you owe $100,000. Now, what's beautiful about that is that then you can negotiate with the bank and work things so that you can modify that mortgage and respread that over 20 years, sometimes 30 years, in rare instances as long as 40 years. Different lenders have different underwriting guidelines within which that they operate in order to deal with those types of situations. And in the context of Chapter 11, there is a way to force that to occur so long as you have the votes, and I'm getting into a lot of concepts we haven't talked about, but to be able to confirm your plan. I want to go back a moment and explain that in Chapter 13, getting a plan confirmed is solely about complying with what the bankruptcy code requires you to comply with. So long as you comply with it, your case will be confirmed by the bankruptcy court. In Chapter 11, you can comply with the code in full, but your creditors have an opportunity to vote on your plan. So it's important as you go through the process to understand that while you're going through valuing property and stripping mortgages and doing all of these apparently wonderful things, they have several bites at the apple after that within which they can come in and say, wait, we don't want to be treated that way. And this isn't the forum for going into all of those details, but in addition to voting, they also have something called an 1111B election that they can make, and there's a lot of vagaries that are involved with when they take that and what it's worth and how that works. We don't want to confuse you too much with all of that detail in this conversation, but understand that there is a real back and forth in the Chapter 11 process that doesn't exist in Chapter 13. So a lot of times if you're able to go in 13, it is advantageous to do so. Again, however, if you're going to spread a mortgage out with that cram down that I mentioned moments ago and try to get something spread over 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, whatever it is, you can't do that in a 13, which is only limited to 5 years. So that's a circumstance where you may end up realizing that Chapter 11 is the place that you need to be if you have a lot of property that you need to be able to value and to modify how you're making payments. So this is David Merrill again, and I wanted to take a moment to thank you for taking the time to look through and watch the different information that we have for you on Chapter 11 and other chapters in bankruptcy. Drake and I at Osmond & Merrill are happy to talk to you about any of these matters, and in fact, we offer an initial consultation that is free and would invite you to call us at 561-689-6789 at your convenience. We'll be happy to meet with you and talk about whatever the specific situation that you're facing is. Have a great day.